Okay, well, I'm gonna want to make this brief. Ignore the cat, because last time I did a big collection video, aka the last video, was it took up a lot of storage. So we're just gonna want to make this brief, and we'll start with the smallest bit. Ignore the big elephant in the room. The smallest part of our gray collection, because yes, this is the gray collection, is these guys right here. These modern-ish forces, like you've probably seen them everywhere, or have seen them somewhere in those cheap army lots on Amazon, but these are honestly not that bad. The plastic is certainly cheap, but the poses are not that bad. They're decently well molded, and they have good pose variety. Again, I don't have all the poses. I only have these very special 5, and they're decently good. The rifle is meh. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. Because if you look at these guys, it's absolutely supposed to be like an M16 or something. But then you look at what they're holding, and that doesn't look like an M16. If anything, it looks like an FAL, but it's hard to tell because, it's relatively cheap. The next smallest is the BMC Germans and the CTS Germans, which we'll just call the BMC Germans, because although they're made by 2 different companies, BMC on the BMC site have merged to form this. You can buy CTS stuff separately, but it is easier, and I would recommend buying their stuff on the BMC site. I didn't get this from there, I got it from the eBay lot video, which was the last one. So there's these 2 which come from their D-Day stuff, or their secret lab, or whatever it is, the D-Day stuff typically. And then there's the CTS stuff. There is 2 officers right here. One is bloodied up and mangled. So he has a ketchup all over him. YouTube, please don't censor me. And then there's an officer that's perfectly fine, and it hasn't spilled ketchup all over him. I'm not sure if it's going to be censored, since I said, never mind. And then there's a wounded guy, which is supposed to be carried on a stretcher, but we don't have the stretcher. And then there's a sniper right here. And then there's an MG42, I believe, or 40, maybe a 43, probably a 43. He's probably supposed to have the ammo guy come into him right here, but we don't have that pose. And then there's a rifleman, there's a rifleman. There's a guy with a Panzerfaust, I believe. I don't think that's a Panzerfaust. It's something else. There's a guy with an MP40. There's a guy throwing a grenade. There's a guy with looks to be another MP40. There's another guy with a rifle. Here's one of the stretcher guys, but there's no stretcher. There's not his partner. And there's another one with an MP40. And then the next smallest from that is the Italian figures. Now, these guys do have a hint of green, and I was going to add them to my green collection when I saw them on the BMC site, because these are BMC figures. However, now that I just got them in this eBay lot, they're more grayish. Like, they're green, but they're pretty gray. And so I added them to my gray army. Now, they do have interesting poses. One such being this guy, which is laying down throwing a grenade. Another, which is racking the bolt. That's not the correct word. Pulling the bolt. Handling the bolt. Whatever the term is. I don't know. I didn't do my research before this. Anyways, he's using the bolt of the rifle to actually chamber the round. And then there's one of them carrying their machine gun, I believe, or a light machine gun, which I don't know what it is, but it's really cool. Sadly, there's no pose in this or on the actual BMC site of the machine gun being used. There is just these 6 poses, or I think it's 6, right? Or 5 poses, or maybe 6. Maybe the 6 does have one. I don't know. Considering they're all in really good condition, I doubt that. Then there's the crouching rifleman, which, is always needed. And then there's the standing rifleman. Or I think that's a rifleman. He might be carrying a machine gun for all I know. I don't know. I think these guys are definitely carrying machine guns. Submachine guns, though. So, yeah. Then over here we have the knockoff teamy guys. And although you may be wondering, hey, don't you have a bunch of knockoff teamy guys that are part of the green army that you could donate to the gray army and get them more of a fighting force here? Yes, that is true. However, no. I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to keep these guys here and keep those guys over there, back with the green army. So, if I get any mixed up, any will be mixed up. Don't really matter. But, they got all the standard poses. Give me a second. A bunch of these guys just fell down right in front of me. Okay, let me just put them up. Well, so it was just a BMC guy, so it's fine. Okay, so we have, the laying down rifleman, 1 crawling guy, 2 machine gunners, 4 sappers or minesweepers, 3 mortars, 3 radios, 7 flamethrowers, 4 officers or another prone pose, 3 prone poses, 4 bayonets, 4 riflemen. Capiche? Okay, that's all they have. And granted, this is all the stuff that will likely be with the Greys in the actual films that will be using them in here, which is good because I will fear that they wouldn't have a big fighting force to fight here, but they do. The next part is the Germans. I believe these are knockoff Airfix poses, but for being knockoffs, they're really good. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 radio men and 1 standing MP40. There's 10 radio men, just 4 machine gunners, 2 officers, 1 MP40, 1 standing MP40, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 standing MP40s, and there is 6 charging guys. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crouching riflemen. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 standing riflemen, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 marching guys. Okay, maybe there's 15 riflemen. I didn't see that guy there. Oh yeah, and then there's these 3 cannons that belong to all these Civil War stuff or whatever. But these are the cannons that they will be using. These 4 cannons here are the ones they'll be using, or 4 artillery pieces, or mobile artillery, or field artillery. And then there's 1 Panzer IV. However, there's an interesting thing. I have und Tiger. However, if you watched my videos, which you totally should be watching them, by the way, then you'd know that I have used this Tiger for the Green Army, and in previous collections have established this Tiger as part of the Green Army. But now I have a Gray Army. What do I do with the Tiger? So we'll kind of let you decide. Just kidding, not going to let you decide. The Tiger is going to remain as part of the Green Army because in lore, the Greys are a sort of sub-part of the Greens, or Verdantia, and Greatoria split off of Verdantia shortly after the First Verdantian Rebellion against Tanistria, which failed. However, some parts of those rebellions lived on and would form the Second Rebellion against Tanistria, and the rebellion against Greatoria would gain more traction as they were being supported by Tanistria and were given their independence. And as such, when Verdantia began making new war machines, when Greatoria began making new war machines, Verdantia entered a war with them and claimed some of those war machines as theirs, and are still using them to this day, such as this Tiger, which is why the Tans have their own Panzer IV in the future, because the Greys designed it, but the Greens have a Tiger that is gray because they took it as from the Greys. So this is what happened. That's why the Greens have the Tiger. And then, now we move to the Civil War figures. First off, we have a bunch of cavalry guys. We only have like 3 horses. We have more horses, but I don't have them. We have 2 of these guys. That is a piece that is supposed to go inside of a horse on the top, on the saddle, for them to enter. It is not supposed to represent anything. I just saw that. And then there's a bunch of these crawling dudes. I have no idea what they're doing. And then here is the thing of special poses, or poses that don't really correlate to each other, at least I don't think, and have like 1 or 2 maybe. There's 3 BMC Civil War guys, just 2 riflemen and a reloading guy. And then there's these 2 guys. Turn around, sir. And then what looks to be Davy Crockett. This guy carrying an American flag, so this is probably a Union soldier. That looks to be Stonewall Jackson, perhaps. That is a guy. And then there's 4 of these guys shooting revolvers. One of them has a rifle, the other 3 don't. There's 2 of these guys laying down, presumably reloading. There's this guy reloading. I don't know who he could be. There's 2 of these guys which don't have stands. And then there's 1 of a similar guy that does have a stand. And then there's a laying down guy. There's 3 of these guys reloading. This one is different from these 2. There's 2 of these marching guys. A marching guy, another marching guy, shooting, broken rifle, a guy holding a very, very short gun, and a flag, specifically a Confederate battle flag. Battle flag. Battle flag. Not the political flag. Battle flag. I think. And then there's this guy with a saber who's all bloody, but whatever. And then there's two of these guys. I know who you are. And then there's this guy, swinging his rifle around trying to hit you. And then there's this guy covering his ears, presumably from a cannon. There's this guy reloading. This guy who's bloody. These three guys are ordering. Another guy reloading. Two riflemen moving, charging again, holding a revolver with a flag, carrying a bucket. And then a bunch of these guys are just marching or standing still. Then you move on to the creme de la creme. Oh, beauty, all of these beautiful, immaculate poses. Would you look at that? It's amazing. And this video's like 10 minutes long, Jesus Christ. Anyways, these are a bunch of the really good, really high quality American Revolutionary or maybe Civil War figures that I have. I'm presuming American Revolution because of this hat. I was about to say Prescott hat. I don't know if it's called that. As well as the prominence of flintlock pistols and not revolvers. If it would focus, I swear. You see, that's a flintlock pistol. This, if I could grab it, is a black powder revolver. Big difference. You see, the flintlock pistol has one barrel. And a flintlock. While the black powder pistol has, a revolver. So it's a black powder revolver. It has a cylinder. Big difference. And then so we'll go over the poses. There's the, crouching shooting guy, standing shooting guy reloading, guy moving, I guess, guy just standing still. Why is Ben Franklin here? Pirates, I guess. Guy holding his rifle and waving a flag around. And yeah, or a guy standing there, That's it. Pretty much it. All the Grey Army. Ignore the tiger. That's not part of the Grey Army. But yeah, that's pretty much all the Grey Army. But for those wondering what's going to be used in the films, these guys, along with many, if I have any other Civil War figures, will likely be used for that purpose, to show lore of older ages of the Plastona Wars, which is what the conflicts are called in this series I make, in the videos that I make, and the one that we're currently in is called the Second Plastona War, or the Second Great Plastona War. Oh yeah, then we also have those three cannons, whatever. But for those wondering what's going to be used in the films, pretty much these 4 artillery pieces, this tank, all of these figures, and that plane. Not those cannons, not these guys, not those guys, just this tank, these figures, and that plane. That's it. This is really all of the actual Grey Army that we'll be seeing. And it's a pretty small force. Well, it's not small, but it's not as big, as the one on my other collection. And this force will be dubbed the Greatorian Expeditionary Force, or the GEF.